Hello, this is Alessandrina, and today I wanted to talk about resolving pain, whether that be emotional pain, physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, any type of pain that you are experiencing, and how fundamentally being able to experience the healing of our pain, resolving our pain or a disease or an illness is going to require that we understand any subconscious parts of ourselves that are holding in place the pain or the disease or the illness. So, in that process, it's very, very important to understand that just because we're experiencing a lack of wholeness and an imbalance or disharmony in the physical body or in the mind or in the emotions or in the spirit, that it doesn't mean that we created it, that we're generating it. Yes, our subconscious parts are flowing into our conscious manifestation of ourselves, and it doesn't mean that we're doing that to ourselves. So in order to be able to understand this information and to apply it in a way that's going to be beneficial for you and that's going to help you heal, that's going to support your healing and the resolution of any pain or illness or sickness or any, again, form of imbalance or disharmony in any level of your system, it's very, very important that there's no judgment. If you go into reactive judgment and start feeling like, well, parts of me, subconscious parts of me, are creating this disease or this illness or this pain or these emotions or these thoughts, the moment that you, based on your conditioning, based on all of the conditioning in the collective consciousness, the moment that you go, whether you become aware of it or not, into a reaction to that, feeling judgment, shame, guilt, or that something's wrong, or feeling disempowered or victimized by those parts of yourself, or even identifying like, I'm doing that to myself, I'm making myself sick, or I'm making myself feel pain, I'm creating my own pain and suffering. The moment that you go into that detrimental, judgmental, reactive cycle, it can actually add to the process of pain and keep you stuck in another layer instead of help you to understand what generated the, let's say, the onset and the beginning of the disease or the pain or the illness, and then work through it without judgment. Just kind of like becoming aware of some of the very subtle influences in our system that can have a big impact. So if you start with that, if you honor yourself and choose to forgive yourself for any ways in which you may have subconsciously, unconsciously contributed to what you're experiencing right now, that's going to be most optimal, because now you're not going to be stuck in a reactive mode to your own self-judgment. You can actually kind of say, oh, this is what, I've been doing subconsciously, unconsciously, programmatically, meaning I've been programmed and conditioned into believing that, and therefore I felt this way, and then this is manifested in my physical body, if it's physical in this way. So let's step back for a moment, just to mention something that's very important, and I'll probably in this video or in another context, maybe in our course on our website, I'll add a diagram about the process of things getting physicalized. So if you're, for instance, right now wanting to heal from something physical, it's very important to understand the layers through which things become physical. So if you imagine a circle, And the center, that's the physical. And we could say that that's one way to look at it, or you could go the other way around. You could go from spirit, and then go into the mental, and then into the emotional, and then into the physical. It doesn't matter how you represent it. If you want to start with the spiritual on the outer layers, and then go into the mental, and then go into the emotional, and then go into the physical, that's another way to kind of model and map this process of how pain or disease, again, not necessarily physical, manifests. So it starts in the spiritual. So, for instance, if we have unresolved patterns from ancestral conditioning, or if you believe in past lives, from past life, unresolved patterns and emotions, those exist in your field, in the spiritual field of your being, and they have an influence, they have an energy, and they kind of like are the the core experience that you have of self, that is very subtle. It's not how you experience yourself maybe in your physical body, or in your thoughts, or in your emotions. That said, it really is like a representation of your being and the things that you're processing. So then from that layer, so you could have just there having some disharmony in that field, just having even if it doesn't manifest in the forms of thoughts or emotions, you could be processing things at that level. And then once that kind of moves inward towards the second layer, and this is an oversimplification, it doesn't mean there's not more layers or other ways to look at it. In yoga, they have also those different layers that they look at, different forms of manifestation of our being. So this is just one way that I'm simplifying, just to explain how you can get to the core if you're working at the level of the physical, and how the spiritual is very important. So then from there, the mind. So thoughts. So based on your energy, for instance, so we could add energy also. We could have spiritual, energetic, or energetic, spiritual, mental. So then the energy would then would be affected by the spiritual. And then at the level of your energy would then have an influence on your thoughts. Oftentimes people think that their emotions fit their thoughts. And in some way, it is true that your emotions, how you feel, is going to inform your thoughts. That said, ultimately, your state of energy and the state of energy that you're in actually is going to inform your thoughts and what is available for you to think of, which is why it's so important in the process of healing, for instance, that said, in any process of also receiving and manifesting and attracting things to us, to change at the level of the energy, because you can't really fight your thoughts in a way that's going to bring about the things that are in alignment and in energetic alignment with what you want. Because if you're in a certain state of energy, you will have certain thoughts that are a reflection of that state of energy. So now we go into the thoughts. So now the thought is like the mind imagining things. So for instance, if let's talk about physical illness, for instance. If we have had an illness, chronic illness, or a new illness that's coming up, and we have recordings and memories associated with that, and emotions and feelings. And now that's going to feed what we think, what is possible, what we believe about it. And so we can have recorded feeling a certain way in our physical body, and then we think about that, and that's how we relate to ourselves. And then those thoughts continue to keep the same energy in place. So you see, everything is circular, everything feeds into everything. So that's why it's not that easy to understand for a lot of people, like, well, where is this coming from? Where is this energy emanating? So now you're at the level of thought, and you're imagining through your thoughts what your reality is. So your thoughts are kind of narrating the state of energy that you're in, and they're saying, oh, this is my life, and this is who I am, and I am sick, and I've been sick, and I've had this, and I've had that. Again, doesn't have to be physical, and right now we're just focusing momentarily on the physical level. So now you tell yourself that you have those thoughts based on the state of energy, and now those thoughts start to, of course, lead to certain emotions. If you have thoughts about yourself, about what you're experiencing, about the reality of your life, it's going to trigger anger or sadness or depression or frustration or feeling out of control or a bunch of different emotions that won't serve you. That's fed by the thoughts. So if the thoughts were not there, then those emotions would not be there. And of course, if the energy wasn't there, then the thoughts wouldn't be there. And then it again feeds back. So then when you have the emotion, then it's going to feed back into the thoughts, and the thoughts and the emotions are going to feed back into the energy and then the spiritual. So it's like constantly in loop. All of these different layers are looping with each other. And then you have at the core, if we're looking at it from this model, with at the core the physical, then at the core you have the physical, the cells, and how the cells are affected by the environment, the thoughts, the emotions. I believe Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about the 3 T's in his book on the biology of beliefs, and I believe it's trauma, thought, and then there's another one. So anyway, the way that he looks at it is that the chemistry, the biology, is going to affect the physical body. If we have unresolved trauma, if we have thoughts that are coming in and continuing to feed essentially that same state of beingness, then we're going to be really just living in that belief system and then experiencing it in the physical body. So when we arrive at the physical level, in the cells and in the biology, in the chemistry, in the hormones, the nervous system at that level, and things become physicalized, right? So everything would start at the level of the spiritual and the energetic, then thought and mind, then emotions, and then the physical. When we get to that level, the energy can be much denser, and it can feel much more difficult for us to resolve that energy because there's an entrainment, and the body is entrained in that energy and conditioned, and the energy can feel very overwhelming for a lot of people. And then if it becomes physicalized, then there's a bunch of different beliefs that's generated from that, and then we start reacting also to the generation of those beliefs which then lead to more thoughts, more emotions, and more physical manifestation and revalidation of that which we imagine, of that which we embody, and which we energize. So when you're working on healing, it's very important to understand that, yes, working at the level of the physical, whether that is, with energy medicine, whether that is with, which can work at the level of the physical and the cells, whether that is with traditional medicine, whether that is with some form of alternative medicine, whether it's through nutrition, whether it's through any kind of treatment that you receive that is going to affect your physical body, it's really helpful to understand that that's one path, and that's very useful, meaning that when things get physicalized, it's very important to address things at the level of the physical body and system. And ultimately, when we realize that if we only focus on that part of the system, if we're not actually focusing at the level of the mind, at the level of the emotions, at the level of the energy, at the level of spirit, then there's not going to be a comprehensive resolution of what is unfolding and manifesting physically. So once we realize that and we connect the dots and we apply our wisdom and our attention, our focus, our energy, our resources, not just to the physical and what is manifesting physically, we also apply it at the level of emotions, mind, and energy. Now we have a more comprehensive, holistic approach, and spirit, more comprehensive, holistic approach to the resolution of what is manifesting in the physical body, for instance. So same is true with thoughts, same is true with emotions, same is true with anything that is manifesting. If you work at those different layers of your system, then you're going to have a more comprehensive resolution, and also ultimately something that addresses all aspects of your being, and therefore brings about that quote unquote absolute resolution, instead of just a partial resolution of something that can lead to resurgence, or something coming back, right, in patterns or waves. And also for a lot of people who are wanting to receive healing or to resolve things, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, or energetically, there can be some degree of frustration if we're not addressing all of those things, because we're going to feel some kind of disconnect, or that something is not completely connecting. We're not connecting all the dots, and things are not being completely resolved. So when we have this approach, what's important to understand, and by the way, there are maybe 10 or 20 meditations that we have available in our playlist for healing, holistic healing. And if you work with these meditations, what's important to understand is that the energy itself is must change. There's a requirement that we change the level of energy for things to change. So for instance, if we're practicing meditation and we're in the same state of energy, so we're applying a process that said the energy is not changing, it's very unlikely that we're going to have a comprehensive resolution or healing of what we're experiencing, because the underlying energy will continue to feed the process that I described earlier on, and therefore it's not going to be a complete solution. There's not going to be an absolute resolution. Not to say that there's anything is absolute, just closer to something that's going to be complete. So when we start to work at that level and change our energy, meaning the energy that you're in when you're meditating, the energy that you're in when you're going to see a provider, or when you're being helped by someone to work on limiting beliefs or fears, or your pain, at any level of your system, that the energy itself must change. If the energy does not change, you are going through a process of mind and kind of escaping the energy, and therefore you're not in the energy that requires transmutation to actually achieve the healing. So a lot of people get frustrated on their healing path because they don't realize that their energy is not fundamentally changing, and therefore that they could apply a bunch of different tools and processes or meditations, and that's not resolving the core energy that's leading to the pain, or the imbalance, or the disharmony. So when you do the meditations, for instance, there might be things that you don't understand, that you don't see, because they belong to the realm of the subconscious, so you're not aware of them. So being aware that there are going to be blind spots, and to see where you're making progress, where you're realizing things about yourself and your process, and where actually there might still be the same experience of limitations, or the same experience of things not changing truly, fundamentally. So that's an indication that there are subconscious things that you're not aware of. And so doing this work, working with someone, Dexter and I, do help with that. So if that's something that you're interested in exploring with us, you can do that. We do go into the layers of the subconscious that people are not aware of to help people uncover um, what it is that they're not aware of that is influencing their process, for instance, of healing and resolution of patterns and pain and imbalances. Or anyone that, that knows about the subconscious and is applying that in a very conscious way, in a way that is not dogmatic or absolute, that really has a gentle, loving, and also flexible process, because everyone's energy is different. And working online with people, meaning online, not online, just like working with someone's energy and their energy system, that's going to bring up different things in different people, different child parts, different resistances. And so having the capacity to be flexible, and then there's no one solution fits all people, that just doesn't exist. It's not possible. We all have different conditionings, and we are here for different reasons, so no one is going to be the same. Even if we can apply wonderful techniques and processes, ultimately there needs to be some form of flexibility and understanding of each person, and how each person's psyche and emotions and spiritual process is going to fit into what is being applied. So I wanted to share that with you, to empower you to really understand that you can heal, and that if there are things in your life that are unresolved, whether it's patterns, whether it's emotions, whether it's on the physical level, that haven't been understood and haven't been comprehensively dismantled, and if you have beliefs that you'll never heal, or it'll never get better, or it should not be this way, all of this is going to play out. And when you become aware of that, what you don't know and what is participating, influencing, and creating what you are experiencing that you don't want to experience, that you want to change, and you're not in a hurry, and you're not afraid of what you're experiencing, and you're just focusing on how did I get there, what's happening. And then you take a non-emotional, in the sense of grounded, practical, very conscious approach to understanding what has been happening, how it has happened, how it's unfolded. Then you can rewind. You can trace back what has generated what you're experiencing right now, and then you can clear it, you can heal it. And then it doesn't regenerate. That's another thing. When you work on all those levels with all those layers, then instead of just working on one layer and potentially having something regrow from other layers that have not been addressed, when you work with all the layers, then you're really doing a complete and precise and most balanced and integrated process and path. And then things get resolved, and then patterns that you've had maybe your whole life can completely dissolve, or things, physical symptoms that you're experiencing can clear, and then no new symptoms of another form, or no new addiction, or no new patterns of thinking that are negative, or no new negative emotions are going to come back, unless of course we have something else that arises from something completely different, another train of experience and karma that we're unfolding, and that's very different. So that would be a completely separate instance that would then be treated separately from what you're actually wanting to focus on and heal. I hope this is helpful, and that this really supports you in your process of healing and realizing that you can be empowered, that you're not a victim of your thoughts, your emotions, your energy, your spiritual body and what it's made up of, or your physical body, that you can empower yourself to heal and change your energy fundamentally. Sending you much love.